Hi, colleagues, it's John Fischetti. Welcome to episode 16 of We Will Get Through This, Transformative Leadership for Disruptive Times. And it's such a great honor today to have one of the world's preeminent scholars in the field of education and change and transformation, and probably my favorite thought leader in the field of education, Professor Yong Zhao from the University of Kansas. It's an honor to have you here today, Yong.
Well, thanks, John. It's always interesting and enlightening to talk with you.
Yong, you are recognized by all of the people I respect in the world as one of the key thinkers about where we're heading with the notion of schooling, the role of what curriculum is, thinking about what we can learn, both good and bad, from the rest of the world. And as you look around, we want to talk today about the opportunities that this COVID reality gives school leaders to really not give up on their change ideas, but maybe to double down on them, but redirect them. And if you were advising a school leadership team today, what do you think the key messages you'd like to share would be?
Well, I think that a very strong message, John. You know very well that schools have been ruled by this called grammar of schooling. That's done 30 years ago, pointed by by Greek thinkers like Hayek and Tobin, and it's the schools have been running as a language, so we are ruled by this grammar, by how do we divide time, how do we divide curriculum, how do we divide. I think all the transformation work recently you've been leading is really having rethink about that, is to say how students can take more charge, students have more agency, how much cross-disciplinary subjects can be done, how learning can be more authentic. So I think this is a great time to do this, because to remove that, in essence, schools are gone in that way. So there's no reason to replicate school when there's no school. So I said, it's hard to change the grammar of school because you are speaking the language. So I've been advocating, said, what if we speak education? Education is a different set of grammar. The grammatical rules will be different. So I think this is really a great time to rethink. Just let's not pretend to have school. We don't have schools now. So why do you let those rules to rule us? I think this is a perfect time to do this, because many of us have been trying to break schools, but we are not very successful, at least break the schools as we knew. And also understanding that this is no news to experts like you, John, that is schools were created at a time when we did not know students as who they are, when we had a different word for demands, different labor force, we did not have the technology, we did not have any of this kind of things we have today. So today, if we were going to create a new way of serving education, not perpetuating schooling, would be different.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's what the opportunity is, maybe, for rather than see this as a holdup to the change effort, it might be a way to turbo drive it, because some things have gotten out of the way. In Australia, all of a sudden the government that 2 months ago wouldn't allow a telemedicine visit to count for Medicare waved a wand, and it now all counts. It's so you
Yes.
can be bulk billed. So things can be moved out. So all of a sudden, end of year tests are moved or waived, or year 11 marks will be used in lieu of an ATAR, and things are being made more flexible that were thought of as regimented, concreted in barriers. And so it could be, in all of that, we have more permission to invent and think differently than we might have just before.
I think, speak of that, John, I think what we need to do at this moment is to act very quickly with sense of urgency to take advantage of this temporary, space, and that's suddenly be emptied, because if we don't do something, we will return to the same school. We will return to the same schooling. What I'm hoping, when we return to the same school, we return to a different education. Like, for example, your ATAR and your NAPLAN, and in the US, of course, GREs. Can schools act quickly to institutionalize no NAPLAN and to capitalize on this opportunity? See, when there's no NAPLAN for 1 year, we're fine.
Yes.
We didn't have to.
No,
and
exactly.
let's rethink about money. So we did not used to have NAPLAN. We were fine. Now suddenly 1 year we did not have that. We're still fine. Why do you spend money on reinstitute NAPLAN? Let's just do it and just get rid of it. But we need to take action at this moment.
One of the things that's worrying a lot of teachers who will stay in an extended time, in some school districts in the US, the school year's over as we knew it. The next year could even start in this mode in states that are opening up too soon. Crazy things are happening where people can't accomplish the curriculum. As you've written and spoken so amazingly about, how do we then get those teachers on board that what we want to go is deeper instead of wider? Because this may be our opportunity to do that.
Well, I think the first thing we need to help people recognize that no curriculum is divine. You have to do it. I'm surprised. You and I know this. There's so many people, even parents, have a hard time understanding that a curriculum is made by some people and that can be undone. So that kind of people say, are so worried about, oh, my kids are behind. You're behind what?
Behind
you know,
what?
that's so we I was just talking to a great creative thinker, I'm talking to Ron Bagetto. Yeah, he does research on creativity. We're just talking about we are prisoners of our own imagination. We imagine this thing, this curriculum, what is that thing? So let's not worry about the curriculum, let's worry about the kids. Curriculum is supposed to serve the kids. Education is not something to accomplish. It's not, the idea about put a horse in front of the wagon, whatever the cart thing, just
the cart in front of the horse.
And another big piece is also with the curriculum. Whatever has been prescribed was somebody's imagination. And whether to face your kids, teachers have to make adjustment anyway. That's what we call it. We have to make adjustment. We have to rethink about it. I've been working with quite a number of schools now. They actually, one school in Hong Kong, for example, they've been talking about teachers reflecting. Do we really have to teach as much as we used to teach? Do we have to cover everything? And in the end, they said no, they don't. They talk to parents. And also, if you actually come down today, if you have realized, you probably really need 20% of the time to cover what we used to teach. We really waste a lot of time doing other stuff. So I think for teachers, this is the best time to liberate themselves from the curriculum, to think about what we really want to teach, what's really important to create a better education experience. But also teachers have to rethink about, we used to be siloed. Depends on the level you are in this subject, in the splintering of knowledge into subjects. But we know, all this is connected. We need to project-based learning, authentic learning, and that has to be cross-disciplinary. So why individual teachers have to work themselves so hard to make sure my subject is taught? Why can't we work together to design a big projects? Maybe the entire school work on one big projects, and then they can go deeper, they can be more personalized, they can reach more interest and become more engaging for students.
Fantastic. I've been sort of against the concept of the flipped classroom that's been motivating a lot of conversation in the last 20 years, because in my day, the English teacher gave us an assignment and we did it, and then we came to school to discuss it. That wasn't called the flipped classroom in my day, it was called homework. But I think what we can do now is flip the school, which you just said. So now we can think of ourselves as a faculty working together for serve the interest of the learning of our students. And in that sense, we're a thought leader team, not just our siloed experts, each doing our little bit to add up to wait till the end of the year and try again next year. I think it gives us a chance to flip the whole thing, not just the individual classroom. The also thing is that some teachers will be able to continue to use some of the technology-based tools that they may have been so scared to use, because they will have become reasonable experts in that and say, we don't have to do that rush each day through covering content. We got places we can park that. When we're together, we could actually celebrate our humanity and work together and create a positive culture, which is so much of what you've written about over the years, the ethos of a school and the feeling of a school.
Yeah, that's really beautifully said. I mean, I think, for example, if we think hard, knowledge and information is not hard to get. Honestly, you and I talked a lot about this. If a student wants to learn something, they will find it. Actually, that's really the beauty of it. So this say, okay, but everybody needs a purpose, a reason to learn something. And this brings to me what I was sharing with you before our podcast was that a big concern I have right now, COVID has heightened the urgency of that, is that the rising exasperated xenophobia, racism, isolationism, nationalism, I think it's on display in almost every country and in every place, every community. And we have been split, humanities. There are many reasons for this, but I would blame education has been misdirected to focus on literacy, on STEM, on PISA scores, on human beings as economical beings, not as human beings. That is, I think this is the time, if we did something, which we always aspire to do, global, digital, human beings, human interdependency, human interconnectedness. And that's what actually the trouble with education anyway. I've been always talk about, like, for example, right now, education teaches people to be short-sighted and selfish. You get your grade, you can compete better in ATAR. You can beat the other kids down. Like ATAR is a machine to manufacture losers, because for you to win, someone has to lose. But what we need to learn is that we are unique. We have a jagged profile of strength. The only way to do for us to realize our value is to make a contribution to others. We have weaknesses, so other people contribute to us. So that's a change in education paradigm at the local level. But on the grand level, we know diversity is good. But then when we meet with diversity, we try to homogenize it. That's what we call xenophobia. We're afraid, fight or flight, So I think this is the time, if we build as a faculty, as a community, to create an education experience for our children to live as human beings, to learn about other human beings, that would be beautiful. So I'm doing this project I call HIP, Human Interdependence Project. I hope I'll send you some document, and maybe some of your the schools you work with would like to join in with our first initiative was running this as a global virtual summer camp for students to learn about entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is to create value for others. It is to create authentic products that illustrate how human beings are interconnected and interdependent. And out of that, we want to have a group of students from any place to become hipsters so they can create value for each other. Through creating value, they realize their value, they become better, they become more unique.
I think that also helps the leadership teams that this podcast is intended for reorient or refocus what they're trying to innovate for. Because I think trapped in the normal sense of a regular school year where we'd be either toward the end in the Northern Hemisphere or sort of halfway through in the Southern Hemisphere, we end up with this drive toward what are we doing this for? And a reminder, we're doing this to build better people, to build a better planet. And in doing so, that might help drive a rethinking of the time we actually spend when we're in school should be as much about the humanity as opposed to the rush to try to succeed in what all the ministers and other mandates have asked us to do. So it's a really exciting venture. The hipster idea is very clever, and I think also resonates with what young people are looking for. Because minus that, in the vacuum of the fake news and whoever's putting it out there, or the social media, which is, Australian kids are now 9 hours a day online, 3 of those in social media. They're just getting what they're hearing. School is the one place where if we establish the common good reality that started the need for public education to begin with, we might be able to drive kids toward what your vision is. And that is we're doing things to do no harm and to improve things, not just to climb over one another toward, the one gold ring at the end of the prize here.
Well, John, that's beautifully said. I think that goes to another one is that, why do people why do we subject ourselves to things we don't like? Actually, honestly, many teachers recognize, and this one we are being judged by a silly system. We know it doesn't matter, but we are judged by that. We want to climb the ladder. We want to go to good university, better university, all these things. I think we have this imagined what I call manufactured sense of scarcity, as if you had it, I won't have it. We created that. We only have 8 or 99 can go to Melbourne Uni for medical school, and but you manufacture it, but you don't have to do that. I think that the idea is maybe COVID. You did say something beautiful. COVID collapsed a lot of systems. Like I said, we used to do this way. How you were talking about medicine. I'm talking about my university, University of Kansas. It was almost impossible to hold distant dissertation defense. All these meetings. No, we have all these rules. How do you know? But suddenly, overnight, you don't have to convince anybody. Please do it. It's
a great example.
Just overnight, the system is gone. So you don't have to do that. I bet if you try to convince this Akara or the NAPLAN people, let's postpone it. Kids now ready. You will never get it done. But then overnight, oh yeah, sure, let's do it. So I think this is a great time to collapse the system, to think outside the system. Remember this, we are constrained by our own imagination, by our own system. But, I'm not trying to be idealistic and all trying to be hopeful. What I'm saying that I think, I run a little show with a bunch of people called the Silver Lining, for learning. So last week we had Will Richardson and Chris Didi on the show. Chris Didi is one of the hosts. So we'll talk about the future. People say, what do you think the future will be? I like the message Chris Didi said. We're not forecasting the future. We're creating the future. So I want to invite you and your podcast listener to say, it's not whether that's going to go away. It's what we do about it. I know not everything we do will come to have a better future necessarily, but if we didn't do something, the future might be a worse alternative.
Yeah, that's amazing. If we were going to give a task, let's say you were in the room with 25 great school leaders right now who are each trying to get their mojo back. What would you give them as a task to take back to their school teams, to take those ideas and make them happen during the next several weeks where everything's a very ambiguous reality? We're sort of in school, but we're not. We're online, but is it really online? And it's going to be over, but then some states are letting people go get tattoos.
Well, I mean, my task, I think, would be very simple to say, create an alternative. Whatever you are doing, like something, chop away maybe 20% of your school time to say, I would like to do this. And because I think we have a very short time window. Yep. If we don't create alternatives, if people do not taste the difference, they will not be able to go back to bring that back. I think create an alternative. And then, for example, alternative of organized learning. Just how about we collapse in like 3 subjects? Now this teacher, you have to redo this. What if have students lead some classes? What if you say, so this is a good time to do this? What if, or you do something that's okay, let's substitute some kind of homework assessment with some more authentic work. Just to create an alternative and give to teachers and students a new taste, a different things, a different possibility.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion. And I think we do have permission for the balance of this year and into next, that flexibility where we won't be held, if we thought we were going to be held to some great accountability standard, that there'll be enough flexibility that whatever you do that brings people together, gets them excited, gets them passionate, gets parents involved, and has learning at its core, but maybe in a different way, will not be told no. It might be honored, because what you're doing is rekindling the rationale why we even need to bring kids to school. If we can take in 3 to 4 weeks the entire world's education system, higher ed, K-12, and put it in some various platforms, some of them clunky, some of them the bandwidth isn't working, then imagine what we could do if we did it right. I mean, we did it quickly.
Yeah.
And now if we get back to school, what would it look like if we did it right? And I think your aim, your persona is all about how if we did it, so we care deeply about each young person. We didn't focus on the result. We focus on the purpose. Let the exam, if we have one, let that be a result, not the reason we do things. And let's not borrow bad ideas from around the world that have failed there and just call them our standard. We can invent our own bad ideas if we wanted to. Yeah. So I think if our colleagues are interested, if they go to your webpage and see the list of your publications, your most recent ones, which challenge and push back at some of the standardization movement, including PISA, as it's evolved into its own corporate entity, including some of the learnings we can take from countries that may not be as good as we thought. I think some of the work you've done on side effects in the last couple of years is amazingly relevant for our Australian market and our North American market here for this podcast. I deeply appreciate the vision you bring, the passion, the curiosity, but also the nudge that you bring to every conversation. And as we end this episode, I really encourage our participants to reach out. They're always available for consultation if people want to get in touch. The network you're proposing through HIP is fantastic. We look forward to finding some schools to support you. But I also want our leaders to know that in these times, most of the world's great thinkers, such as yourself, are 1 degree of separation away from contacting them, getting to their primary source material, but seeking their advice, because many people are grounded. Their frequent flyer miles are stalled right now. They have the opportunity to exchange with you. So reach out to the experts. They're just going to be right there to help. Don't give up on your change. Don't give up on what you're hoping to do. And maybe we can have some fun on the other side of this. Take some of the resources that have gone into assessment and turn it into professional learning for teachers so that they feel better equipped to do some of the things you were challenging us to do. The money's probably there. We just want to redirect it toward teaching and learning.
Absolutely. I think the resources there actually you need to redirect. I think your suggestion, but take the time that you're preparing tests, to do this. And then, practically it's removed a lot of excuses. We're afraid of the lab plan. We're afraid of accountability. This is gone. And I invite anyone to visit my website. It's Zhao Learning, ZHAO Learning.com. And it's just always lovely talking to you. And anyone wants to reach out to me, we can chat on Twitter or other places. And thank you, John.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure to have you, and we look forward to the next place you push us toward, Yong. You're one of our key thinkers in the world, and I know the exciting collaborations you have will only continue post-COVID, if there is such a thing. In the future normal, this new normal stuff, I think most of us are done with. The future normal is going to be an interesting world we create. This has been episode 16 of We Will Get Through This, and it's been our pleasure today to have Professor Yong Zhao from the University of Kansas with us. Yong, thanks again for your time. Stay well with your family, and we look forward to seeing you in person very soon.
Thank you very much.